The last 3 years I've just been like trying to figure life out in this new world that I was terrified of.
I am Judd Lienhard, former Army Ranger, college linebacker. I've been a strength and performance coach for over 15 years. Let's get into it.
Elena Brandner survived one of the worst car wrecks you can imagine.
I think I had 18 broken bones. You think you're invincible, but then you're not. I went from having like a really decent lower body, like that had a lot of power and stuff, to nothing. My L2 ended up shattering into 7-8 pieces. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I just kept reminding myself, this isn't forever. This isn't forever. If there's a will, there's a way. I had the will and I needed to find a way. God creates purpose in the pain. Maybe this was how it was supposed to happen. Like, the world's not out to get you. I just really love life. Everything could be so much better if you just chose to like take the higher road of thought. You get one body, you would think you would want to learn how to use it and how to optimize it. We chase certain goals and we say we want certain things, but like, how much are you willing to truly sacrifice to actually get those things? You're either willing to go above and beyond what it is that you want, or you're not, and then that just tells me you don't want it. How bad do you want it?
Today I have the privilege and honor of sitting down with Elena Brandner, who survived one of the worst car wrecks you can imagine 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Would have killed most people. And I wanted you to come on, and I appreciate you doing so, because I think you have a lot to teach people about resiliency, dedication, fortitude, gratitude, and overcoming obstacles. And I think your story, your perspective, and how you've turned a tragedy into something that is helping a lot of people is something we can all learn from in our day-to-day lives.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel super blessed to be here, blessed to be alive, number one, and then also just blessed to be able to be in Austin and my first time visiting and being able to meet you and being able to have a conversation and talk about all of the things that I've gone through in the last 3 years, because it's been a wild, wild ride.
So in order to fully understand how impactful that accident was for you, it happened in 2022, right?
Yeah.
Can you paint a picture of what your life was like before the accident?
Yeah. So I was super active. I was always on my feet. I grew up in a small little beach town called New Smyrna Beach, which, for those that don't know, it's 20 minutes south of Daytona Beach. And everybody knows Daytona Beach, spring break, the crazy city. And I was always an athlete growing up. I was never the one that was inside. I was always, finding a ball, always playing with a ball. My two sports when I was younger were soccer and basketball. And I ended up sticking with basketball all throughout, middle school and high school. And basically everything that I was doing was to get better at being able to play basketball. So I swam, and I ran cross country, I ran track, I weightlifted. I did everything so that I could be as physically fit so that I could perform the best at, at basketball. And when I was 17, I became a beach lifeguard and served the beach for 4 years. And within that, went on a bunch of rescues and had a really great time and built a community on the beach. Really became family with all of the, the beach lifeguards and things like that. And then when I decided to go to pharmacy school just after high school, so I got my associate's degree in high school, which was able to accelerate me getting into pharmacy school because I didn't have to go do undergrad or anything. And I had only had to take, I think, like 2 or 3 classes post high school. And in that time, I started getting into the hospitality industry to start making, a little bit more money. And then I started working at this bar called Tate and O'Brien's, which is an Irish bar over in New Smyrna on Flagler Avenue. And it's a family-owned restaurant bar. And I had worked there for 7 years, and I love that job. I love being a bartender. Bartending has been, everybody has a stigma around bartenders, but if you don't get caught up in all of the, the drugs and the alcohol, and you just, you go and you have fun. And I like people, so I like to connect, and I like hearing people's stories. And I met all kinds of people all the time, and I love talking to them. And I had the best time because we would have karaoke on Friday nights, always doing karaoke, always singing behind the bar, unslinging drinks. And it was everything. And you're making good money. It was everything that I wanted and more. And then, so I was doing that while I was in pharmacy school. So I got accepted into pharmacy school at the University of Florida in August of 2017. And so when I started, I ended up moving to Orlando, and then I would come home every single weekend to
So which type
bartend.
of people do you dislike more, Florida State people or Miami people?
There's always beef with Florida State.
Okay.
There's
I was wondering.
yeah.
Okay.
There's actually undergrad students from Florida State that went to University of Florida for pharmacy because Florida State didn't have a pharmacy
It's gonna be
program.
rough for them.
Yes, so they I'd always give them a hard time. It'd always be you go and slap them in their face like this. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so when I was in pharmacy school, I drove home every single weekend to bartend. And at one point in time, I picked up another bartending job. So I was working 2 jobs and going to pharmacy school and commuting every weekend home. So they had a satellite campus in Orlando, which is only an hour from me versus having to be in Gainesville. So I was able to be only an hour and a half from home, which was nice. And then when I was in pharmacy school, I mean, it was literally during the week going to school, going to the gym, and that was it. And then the weekends was just working like from morning to morning because you would go in. When I was working 2 jobs, I was going in at 10 a.m. and then I wouldn't get home till 3:34, and then it was repeat. I mean, it was like that for a really long time, but I loved it. It was so much fun, and you can only do it for so long, so you might as well like optimize and make the most of it.
I was a bouncer for a while. So,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Another thing about like the bouncers get the reputation of being a certain type of person, but the bouncers I worked with were like some of the nicest, most even keel, chill dudes you'll ever meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's all like family and stuff,
Yeah.
and you create community within the establishment, and within the service industry and things like that. Which I'm all about community building because I think that's really important for life in general as you progress through all of adult life.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated pharmacy school, I graduated in May of 2021, and when I was in pharmacy school, I had a really hard time because, again, societal expectations of a high achieving student. I kind of went into it for money reasons. Not to say that you can't help people and things like that. I obviously love helping people, love being a part of something much bigger and things like that. But there was a lot of money was the underlying factor in going to it. And, being in pharmacy school and like realizing this, I struggled a lot with okay, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be doing this? But I stuck it out. And so when I graduated in May of 2021, I took some time off because I loved the bar. I was having so much fun and I was walking away with like really good money, and it never felt like work. Like I enjoyed going to work. Of course, sometimes depending on who you're working with, it can be a little bit different, but for the most part, it was always fun. And then I finally decided to buckle down and schedule my board exam for the following year, so February of 2022. And during that time, I would wake up early. I would go to the gym. I would go study all day. Then I would go right across the street to the bar, work all night, and repeat for. I think I did that for like 4 months. And then I had taken one exam. I passed that exam, and then I had the big exam to take, and which was scheduled for February 11th. And then that weekend the weekend after the exam, we had this huge fishing trip planned to I got a private flight to go to the Bahamas, about to go off to this and have so much fun with all my friends and celebrate. And then that Monday, February 7th, is when everything changed.
Can you explain the accident?
Yeah. So I don't remember any of it. The only reason I have an inference as to what happened is because there was a guy that came forward with the video who was driving southbound on the highway, and as I was driving northbound, so he was able to bring forth the video. Otherwise, I would never have known what happened because it's gone. But I was on my way to a doctor's appointment. It was 9:30 in the morning, and I'm not a big fan of driving next to semis or behind semis, so I was going around it, and as I went around it, I ended up trailing behind an SUV, and I drove a lifted Jeep at the time, and I still couldn't see in front of the SUV, and I don't know if they weren't paying attention. I don't know if they were on their phone. I have no idea, but they swerved last second into the middle lane because there was a parked vehicle in the fast lane on the highway, and there are people in the vehicle, and I mean, we're going 70, 80 miles an hour, and I basically rammed right into the back of it. I'm pretty sure I tried also swerving, but I had no time. But I ended up hitting like the back right of the vehicle, and they ended up spinning out and going all the way into the or to the side of the road. And then my Jeep ended up elevating up into the middle lane where the semi was, and the semi like hit me right in my undercarriage. And as it landed on its side, as my Jeep landed on its side, my hard top popped off, and then I basically got thrown out like right next to my Jeep. I don't know how my Jeep didn't land on me. I don't know how the semi didn't hit me, but the semi ended up jackknifing the whole entire highway. My Jeep ended up rolling multiple times, and the highway was shut down for a really, really long time. And it's crazy. I mean, I know so many people in my town, and the amount of people that my friends that had seen the accident happen, it was a lot. Like, then they didn't realize it was me until they realized it was me. I had one of my friends, which again, it's crazy how, certain things align in a certain way. She had actually asked for my location on my phone maybe like 3 weeks prior. Cause we all go out and we party and stuff. She's like, I feel like I should have your location in case you get lost or something. And I'm like, okay. And her and her husband end up driving by, and she sees my Jeep, and she looks at him and is like, I think that's Elena's Jeep. And he's like, no, there's no way. And she checked my location, and it pinged right there. And that was when she ended up trying to like call like the restaurant, call like the people, like trying to make sure like if it was me, all of these things. And yeah, it was, and I had a lot of people like reach out, also friends that were like, I drove by and didn't realize it was you, like getting wheeled into the ambulance and things like that.
What were some of the injuries you sustained?
I think I had 18 broken bones. So as far as my back goes, I had a C2 hangman's fracture. C6, C7 were fractured. I had some thoracics that were also fractured. Thankfully, they were all on like the spinous process, so the outer part of the spine. And then my L2 ended up shattering into, I think, 7, 8 pieces. And then I snapped my arm in half. My left scapula, my left clavicle were broken. My nose broke. And then I didn't get like massive road rash, but I did get like it could have been way worse, but I had a little bit like on my hand, and then I'm pretty sure I was wearing flip-flops, so my left foot definitely got wrecked, and they ended up having to take my pinky toe on my left foot. So I only have 4 toes on my left foot. And then I broke 6 ribs, and I think that's
it.
That's it. Yeah. You would think you would think I would have broken more considering what it was, but again,
it probably shattered your it was your L2.
Yeah.
Probably shattered your L2 when the semi hit you. The initial impact probably shattered it,
Yeah. I was trying, or like, I think I landed on my left side, and I think maybe the axial pressure of like it just took the load, and I think that's when it just went. Pff.
Talking to surgeons that treat car wreck victims, like you cannot imagine the amount of damage that's done with a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, same with like combat surgeons and things like warfare, and being in a car wreck is not what humans are designed for.
No, not at all.
Sustain it,
and you think that like, I don't know, you don't know until something happens. You think you're invincible, but then you're not. And
when did you wake up?
I woke up. So it happened on a Monday. I woke up on Saturday.
And you were coherent? I'm sure you were drugged up, but you knew what was going on. The doctors talked to you.
I didn't really know what was going on. So
had they already done some surgeries at that point?
Yeah. They basically did all the surgeries except taking my pinky toe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, well, so again, the way God works and how, like, I think he's a like big, huge mover in my whole entire journey. But that day, nobody really stops for accidents anymore, right? Like everybody's like in their own lane, like, okay, we just got to get to where we're going kind of thing. But these 2 gentlemen ended up stopping for my accident. And one of them was a retired firefighter from Brooklyn.
Thank God, yeah.
Yeah. And he ended up talking to me the entire time from what I was told and keeping me conscious, because I don't know if I would have stayed conscious had somebody not been there.
Yeah.
And so by the time paramedics came, the paramedic that ended up taking care of me was actually the mother of one of my friends. And so that's how also it was able to like kind of get back. And she said, because I got to take her out for lunch and, you know, get her side of the story, because I didn't know how I was going to be. I didn't know if I was screaming. I didn't know if I was, you know, if I was there or what was happening in my, like in my head. And she had said that she found me like laying face down with like my head cocked to the right. And when she came up, she thought that was a fatality. And then she came and checked my pulse, and I started talking, and she's like, like freaked her out. And she then like had to call like trauma 1 or whatever, and ended up transporting me to the hospital. And she said that I was fairly like I was in and out of it. And when I was with it, I was okay. But when I was not with it, she said that I was really confused as to why I couldn't like get up and move. Like I wanted to move my arms and stuff. And then she said the first thing that I had told her was that I couldn't feel my legs, and that my back was like my back was like on fire basically.
So when they in the hospital, when they woke you up, what did the doctors tell you at first? What did they?
So I don't really remember a lot of like the initial the initial of what, like how they broke the news to me. My first time waking up in the hospital was when they're putting me on and off sedation just to see if I was stable. So the accident happened, and the next day, when I was stable enough, they ended up doing my back surgery, and which was like a 6-hour back surgery. So they fused my whole lumbar. And then I was in a coma for the remaining days. And I think on Friday, I think on Friday they started putting me on and off, and it was, you know how like you watch a movie and the scene is like people opening their eyeballs and it's like lights everywhere and it's just white. Like that's basically what it was for me, and like tubes coming out of my mouth and things like that. And I saw my father at the end of my hospital bed, and I just like looked at him, and he looked at me, and he had said, "You're in a really bad car accident." And all I could think was, "Oh my God, I'm in a really bad dream, and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to wake up next to my dogs, and like this is all going to go away." And it did not all go away.
So what did they tell you about your legs when the major injury affected the use of your lower body? What was the first thing they said?
They had said, I don't know. I to be honest, I don't know if my like family let them really like say to my face. My sister said that she had told me, but I think I was so doped up that I don't recall when it really hit me that I couldn't move my legs and that I didn't realize how bad it was. They took me into a different room like 3 weeks in and did an Asia test. So the Asia test is where it's a scale ABCD. And based off of like what you can feel, so they do like pinpricks with like a safety pin and then cotton swabs and certain parts of your body wherever the dermatomes are. So because your spine has different, your vertebrae all has different areas that it's in charge of basically. Yeah. And so the different dermatomes essentially lead back to a certain vertebrae, and based off of how you answer the questions, whether they do 2 separate pathways, because we have 2 separate pathways, the sensory pathway and the motor pathway. And so they test the sensory pathway and with the cotton swab and the needle pricks. And I thought I was killing it. I'm like, yeah, like this is all good, all awesome. And then we went to the motor pathway, and then she had asked me, I remember I was laying on my back and she's like, "Can you bring your knee to your chest?" And I couldn't. And then that's when like everything just kind of like a whole black cloud kind of just engulfed
the higher
me.
The number A is very little chance of recovery. D is a good chance of recovery.
Yeah.
And you were a B.
I was a B at that time.
So not a great prognosis.
Yeah, no, not a great prognosis. And they did say that I wasn't ever going to walk again.
And you said it was a partial sever of your spinal column?
Yeah, they told me I was an incomplete. Okay. But I mean, I didn't have anything for like the longest time from like the waist down. It was awful. I mean, it was like your legs are so heavy, even though I lost like so much weight, but they're just so heavy that, I mean, I was, I had to have a caregiver for a really long time. I had to, I had to get like straps to like be able to move my legs like at nighttime and stuff, like
Yeah.
to roll over and things. And it was just like I would get my heart rate up at nighttime to just like roll.
They said if you hadn't been so physically fit, it probably would have killed you, right? Or
Yeah.
at least a complete spinal tear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
your
I
muscle
probably
and physical fitness protected you to a large extent.
100%. Yeah. I mean, they even had said that my arm stayed in place and because of my bicep and tricep being able to hold the bone.
You might have
Bone
lost
there.
your arm.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, or have like a massive compound fracture. I mean, I have 27 staples, but I'd rather that than
Yeah.
a whole entire bone coming out of my arm.
Let's walk through your journey back. So you went from not being able to move your legs at all, and having to have a caregiver. What are some things that are going through your mind, and what got you on your journey now to be dedicated to your recovery? Like, what was that like?
I just really love life. And I really have like, there are just things that I've always wanted to be able to do in my life, and to think that something as tragic that happened would take it all away devastated me. And I just kept reminding myself, this isn't forever. This isn't forever. This isn't forever. And I mean, it was really brutal. I mean, there was a point in time where, I've never understood people that take their lives. Like I have a much better empathy and compassion for it now. But again, because I was facing a reality that I didn't want. I never thought I would say the words like I'd rather not be here, but I did end up saying that because I'd rather have like not made it that day than facing what was going on.
I just feel like some people, like I talked about earlier, like, with diabetes and stuff, they have to get their leg cut off. It's tragic still, but they weren't a physically active person anyway, so their life doesn't actually change all that much. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, this is true.
You were your entire life was based. I mean, even bartending, to move around behind the bar, that thing you loved, being on the ocean, being with your friends, everything in your life was based on physical activity. And at that moment, you thought that might have all been taken away from you.
Yeah, it did, and I have goosebumps thinking about it because it was scary. I mean, I don't know. Like, what's your biggest fear?
Well, somewhere between the mental and the physical, losing my mental capacities, or being severely physical disabled would be, other than like losing my child or something.
Right. Yeah. So one of mine was like, losing the ability of my legs, or losing my legs in general. Cause I remember listening to a podcast years ago. I mean, I was like young, and a girl ended up losing both of her legs from meningitis. And I'm like, that would be my biggest fear. And I, also crazy, I look at old journal entries, and I, grab my gratitude list, and I wrote like I'm very thankful for a body that moves. I'm very thankful for my legs that keep me up. And then something like that happens, and it's like, whoa. And
you came very close to being, because of your hangman's fracture, a quadriplegic.
Yeah. And I don't know if I would have been able to do it. And again, it goes back to like, God being only giving us what we can handle. I don't know if I could have handled like being a quadriplegic. I mean, the people that I know that are able to do it, I have so much like a praise for. Yeah. Like, wow. Cause that's hard. It's hard. Living life in a wheelchair is really, really hard. And the people that have done it for a really long time, I admire them, because it's just a lot of mental strength that a lot of people, that a lot of people don't tap into because they don't have to, right?
So a big reason, I wanted to talk to you today was because you are overcoming your struggles actively. You're living a full life. You're dealing with it every day. And I feel like this isn't meant to minimize. We all have our struggles, and this isn't meant to minimize other people's struggles.
Right.
But I think that they can look at your struggles and the mental fortitude you showed and the mental techniques to keep yourself in the fight. The day-to-day struggle that you went through, I think it'll help us put our struggles into perspective and maybe give us some strategies to overcome the smaller struggles that we deal with on a daily basis. Because if you can overcome this, then maybe, I can overcome mine and other people. Yeah. So how did that rehab journey start for you, both mentally and then the physical process?
So I was in inpatient rehab, and I went to Brooks Rehabilitation in Jacksonville, and it was really, I mean, they couldn't do a whole lot with me because I was just in so much pain that, you know, them touching me was just a lot. Like I couldn't sit up at the time. There was just a lot of things that were really difficult. And I mean, I play guitar too, and thankfully they had like music therapy and stuff, and I was able to play guitar. But at the same time, I had to have a knee on my back to be able to like be upright, and like my hand didn't. I woke up from my arm surgery and my hand didn't work because when they went into, so my bone basically snapped like this. So if this is your regular bone, it was like this. So when they went in to reattach it and put like a bracket in, they ended up stretching my radial nerve, which gave me a limp hand when I came out. And I literally woke up like this. And, you know, I play music, I do everything with my hands. I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's no way this could be it. And then in rehab, I was playing guitar with like a limp hand and stuff because I'm like, there's no way that this is what my life is going to be like. And so rehab was rough. I also like lost like bladder and bowel function for like a really long time. So, you know, it's very invasive, and you can't do anything about it. You just have to be okay with it. And that was also really hard because it's a lack of independence.
The few times in my life I've been really sick and been at the hospital at the mercy of others, you know, you get used to being the strong person that's independent, and to have somebody in things that are very private to you and be completely dependent on other people.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to have to go through in itself. You know what I mean?
That was probably the hardest thing was going through that because when you're like super independent, you know, my dad always told me, he's like, just don't be dependent on others when you're older. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm dependent on
all
everybody.
These things run through your head, right?
Yeah. Cause you know, you set, like I set everything up to be like a certain way, like with my life, you know, going, like making sure I did really well in school, like being an athlete, going and into pharmacy school. And then all of these things essentially get ripped away from you because of something awful happening. And you have to then be dependent on everybody to, you know, get you to places or being able to do like the human functions of everyday things. And it's, you know, then you have to like totally strip away like your ego and everything and just be okay with people having to do these things. And like, it's hard because, you know, there are many times where I'm like, this isn't forever. And like, that was what basically like got me through.
I was going to say that is something I want to hone in on. It was like, you're telling yourself that like, this isn't permanent. This doesn't have to be permanent. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you might not be back to something that you were, but that doesn't mean you can't be more in other areas potentially.
Right.
And we just got done doing a workout, and, you know, I went through a leg workout with you, and I was surprised how, you know, strong, you know, your glutes are and your hips are. And I'm just so curious how we went from you in that bed and somebody can't touch your legs to being you know, to having the hip and glute strength, and actually the quad strength too. I was surprised on that you have now.
Yeah.
How did you get there? And then how painful was that journey?
The beginning was really painful. So I got out of rehab, and then it was kind of just fending for myself. Not fending for myself, but like thankfully the village and the community that I have, you know, were able to like help me out tremendously. I went to outpatient rehab, and one of my physical therapists had mentioned this place called CORE, so the Center of Recovery and Exercise, CORE. And she had said, I think you would be a really good fit to go there, and you should really go check it out. So my sister had already mentioned it after doing a bunch of research to me. And so this is the second person that said, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I really do need to go check it out. So my father went and checked it out, and he came back. He's like, this is your place. He's like, you have to go here. Like, as soon as he walked in, he's like, this is where we got to go. And so I ended up going, and it's like a gym. It's basically, they're all about like moving beyond paralysis. So they get people that are paralyzed or have neuro deficits, and they get them working out. And it's not just like, they're not physical therapists. They're all personal trainers that are neuro certified, and they essentially, like, they can help you with functional tasks and things like that, but it's mainly to like get your body moving, get blood flowing, and get, you know, stronger and things like that. And so, I mean, I started off in a motorized wheelchair, and I went there with a C-collar still on, and I was skin and bones, and I'm like, I'm ready to do stuff.
Nice.
And in the beginning, it was just a lot of like tedious work. Like I was so weak and so fragile. It was a lot of, you know, being on the ground and rolling around on the ground and getting like really strapped in and doing a lot of vibration plates and It's been like a pretty, I wouldn't say slow progression, because in the world of spinal cord injuries, it's technically been a really fast progression.
It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
So people out there that they're not in the shape I'm just seeing so many life lessons for everyone out here, because most people don't have spinal cord injuries.
Right.
They're just out of shape, or they haven't worked out, or they haven't worked out in a while.
Right.
And they think that's a slow process. It's got to be hard for you not to kind of chuckle when you hear that.
Yeah.
You're like, you want to know about a slow process. I can tell you about a slow process.
Yeah.
I started out with a C-collar, having to do things that were painful, physically painful and simple over and over and over again.
Yeah. Things that we don't think about, things that like able-bodied people don't have to think about.
What are some of those things that?
Being able to bend down and grab something, sitting down. Okay. Because you can't push through in the beginning. I couldn't push through my legs. So I wouldn't be able to do that. I would fall forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are things that, yeah, I mean, even now, like, I mean, I can get up and grab things, but I can't get on my tippy toes and grab things.
Yeah.
I can't, or really bending down was probably like the biggest one that I feel like a lot of people, like, I didn't even think about that, or even sitting up straight.
Then I was working out with you. I noticed, like, you know, you could roll over and get up on your knees and everything, no problem. Yeah. And I was like, what if she couldn't? And you have a great trainer that's here with us today, Dylan.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, a lot of people, they can't roll over. They can't get themselves out of bed. And
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that was me also. I mean, it did take, like, I did have to learn how to roll over. I had to learn how to crawl again, because in the beginning I didn't have hips. Like, I would fall and they would have to hold my hips, or even tall kneel walking. I have a video of me being in between parallel bars, and like, I'm struggling to like be on my knees, and my legs were, you know, stick thin. And
we're complaining because we don't have abs or our biceps aren't big enough.
Right.
And all of these things that we could do without thinking, be on our knees, roll over, pick stuff up, these solid bases that we all have that we can start to build from. And we just take those for granted, right? Because we have like a bum knee, and we're like, oh, I can't work out because I have a bum knee. I mean, it has to be hard for you to hear these.
It is.
Or I have a bad back. Okay. How bad is your back?
Yeah.
You know, and you didn't have that foundation, and you had to build that foundation.
Yeah.
You know, we think we're starting at scratch. You're like, I hear this all the time. I'm starting from scratch. Really? You think because you haven't lifted a weight in your life, you're not starting from scratch.
No, people. Yeah. I mean, thankfully I had the foundation prior to the accident that, like, you know, muscle memory is a real thing. So that's
another thing I want to talk about. So your trainer brought this up too. A lot of people that had not been physically active before that exercise, they don't have the mind-muscle connection in layman's terms, the proprioception and the patterning down. So when it comes time to try to rehab them, they don't even understand what he's trying to get them to do.
Right.
So that is something that we need to remind people. Like, it's very important that you not just get muscles and get lean. We all want that, but become an athlete, because if anything does happen to you, your road back will be immeasurably easier.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it really, again, the fact, like, the muscle memory is real. And being able, like, thankfully I was in like the bodybuilding world, and I really wanted, like, I was an athlete, and I was able to connect and, like, you know, flexing in the mirror to understand what muscles to flex and what muscles to engage. And, you know, I can still tap into what it feels like to deep squat, and what it feels like to, like, do leg extensions or hamstring curls, things like that, which a lot of people have no idea, that never, you know, step foot into a gym. And, you know, I mean, it is hard for me, because it's like, you very much can. You just need an hour of your day to go and do it, and it does so much. It does so much for you. So it's hard to. The
thing that's standing out to me is like the people's lack of patience is just being amplified to me. Like, they don't have the patience to slowly and steadily progress into where they want.
Yeah, the whole instant gratification thing.
Yeah,
like, people have a really hard time with, like, I need it right now.
You had it, and it was taken from you.
Yeah,
and then you got it back.
Had to rebuild all of it back, and like I wouldn't say I complained, but I'd always say a baby has more muscle mass than I do. Because at that time, they did. I would look at a baby and I'm like, their legs are bigger than mine. And it's just crazy to think that a lot of people, you know, don't take advantage of the body that they have. And they don't, I mean, you get one body. You would think you would want to learn how to use it and how to optimize it and, be the best that you can be with it, because that's like what you take with you till you die.
Yeah.
Right. And the longer that you're in it, it's your vehicle. Exactly.
Yeah. I was shocked how strong your glutes were when we were doing that exercise. Like stronger than most healthy people's, honestly. When I had you do when you started with glute bridges, I was expecting to have to help you up off the ground and you could control it. And you were just repping those out. And then I had to put weight on you. And I'm like, man, she went through this accident and she now has stronger glutes than 90% of the middle-aged guys that I train that
wild.
Can't even do a really glute bridge. You know what I mean? It's just insane.
Yeah.
And then I was the whole time I was thinking about the process that she must have had to go through to get to this point and the pain to get to this point.
Yeah.
To the point now where with some adaptions, they have to brace your lower legs a little bit. You could squat and RDL and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a progression. I mean, again, having the background that I had and knowing my physical capabilities and how far I can push myself and what I'm comfortable doing and knowing that I'm comfortable with, I've been able, a lot of the things that we do, I mean, core has been amazing. They're all I have an idea. This is what I'm thinking about. And then they help me create it and we do it. And, and also tapping into, with the RDLs, for example. So in the beginning, I stood up on a tilt table, a Galileo. So the Galileo, it has a vibration plate at the bottom and it vibrates left and right at different frequencies and different hertz, depending on what you're trying to target. So there's nerve activation frequency and then muscle activation frequency and power and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And with the tilt table, it can go all the way up to 90 and then and back and forth like this. And in the beginning, before I could even be upright, and it straps my knees in, it straps my hips in. And I had said, I saw somebody else with a spinal cord injury doing RDLs and type things that they were all strapped in. And I saw that and I'm like, can we recreate this? So we started off doing it on the tilt table and had everything strapped in. And which I have a video which I can show you later. Yeah. But I mean, I was doing it with a 15-pound bar and I wasn't even at a 90-degree angle. I was at an 80, I think I was probably an 80, 75-degree angle, trying to just, I'm like, we need to figure out how to get these legs back. Yeah. That was my mission. I'm like, I got to get these legs back. And as soon as I can get these back, then things can get flowing and moving. And then we've progressed into now. So it went from the tilt table to putting blocking my knees out and doing it. And now I need the back of my knees blocked out because my knees go into hyperextension. And because me knowing that I can't stop myself from falling forward because I don't have calf activation yet. So I can't push myself back through my toes. I have them wrap a band around me to where I at least then don't feel like I'm going to fall forward, and I can now do 80 pounds, 40-pound dumbbells,
nice.
Which, I mean, and it feels good because I get really sore and it feels like the soreness that, I once had prior to. And I mean, I've gained 25 pounds back since the day of, and it's been a slow progression, but it's been a progression, right?
People that don't lift weights and exercise, they don't understand that. They think we just do it because we want to look good. They don't understand the fulfillment that we get from walking out and feeling good that we worked something.
Yeah.
And you've been able to recapture that in your lower body to a large extent.
Yeah. Thanks. I went from having a really decent lower body, that had a lot of power and stuff. I mean, I could rep out 225 on a back squat to nothing. I was sitting on my sit bones. I was in so much pain all the time sitting on my sit bones to where it was ironic to think that I'm sitting down all day and it's going to be hurting all day.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. So my mission was I got to get my butt back.
The one thing I lost in Ranger School was my ass. And I remember it being painful to sit down on the ground with no padding. And I'm like, what? And I couldn't figure it out at first. I was like, I must have an infection. And then I was like, oh, I could feel my tailbone. My ass went away. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy that your butt is a comfort pillow for you.
It really
When you lose
is.
that, you're uncomfortable.
100% has a purpose, and if you don't have any meat on it, then you're suffering. And I was crying. I remember 4th of July 2022. I was crying watching fireworks because I was in so much pain, and or if I would sit on hard floor, I would be rocking back and forth because I'm on my sit bones.
Yeah.
And it was rough. It was definitely rough. So that was also like, I'm like, it's not like this forever. I have to just keep going. And when my legs were finally able to start pushing, at Core, they have a machine, the Total Gym. So Chuck Norris's Total Gym.
It's actually a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's kind of like, it can be like a hack squat. It can be all kinds of stuff. And one of the trainers there had seen somebody create like a leg press setup on the Total Gym, and you can like, make it different angles and stuff. And so I said, we got to do it. I'm like, I need to push some weight. And we ended up like rigging it all up. We put a box on top of it, gate belted it all down. And I have a video of me like, struggling to just do the sled. Right.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got to do this at least twice a week. Like I'm all about repetition. I don't care. Like, we just have to do it as much as we can. And you got to make me like load weight.
There's a lesson there, right?
Yeah.
Do it often, do it over and over again.
Yeah. Even it's the same thing.
I can't think of a single thing in life that doesn't apply to. Do it often, over and over again.
Yeah.
And keep progressing it, right?
Yeah. And challenging yourself and not being comfortable with where
and that
it is
workout,
that you're
like
at.
you were working hard, like you were pushing yourself.
Thanks.
In a lot of ways. I've been a trainer for 20 years. A lot of people that are perfectly healthy would never push themselves during a leg workout like you did. You know what I mean?
But I like to, that's the athlete in me. Like, I just have always been like that. And I don't know, you get what you get, or you give. What is it?
You get out what you put in.
What you put in is what you get out, kind of thing. And I ended up going like on that leg press, working all the way up to 200 pounds, to where I was able to do like one plate on regular leg press, like at the gym. And so there was that progression. And then after that, we started doing. So when I started, I still have a hard time getting up from a 90-degree angle, like sitting to standing. That progression they have a sit to stand machine where like you can load the weight up, and then it helps like get you up, and it blocks your knees out and stuff. And so, I have videos where I'm going from like 180-degree angle trying to like get back up, and I'm like all locked in and like struggling. Yeah. And then, so I started from there. And then once my legs got a little bit stronger, I got like a Rogue box. I told them, let's get a Rogue box and let's like put some yoga blocks on the Rogue box so that my knees can go.
So you were an active participant in coming up with ways to bring yourself back, right? Yeah. You weren't just there putty and you're like, fix me.
Yeah.
It was a team effort between you and the trainers, and 100%. You were helping them come up with ideas.
Yeah, 100%. In the beginning, I let them do everything, but I also pay attention.
Yeah.
Like observing and paying attention. I've learned so much in the last 3 years, and to where whatever I can take what they have done, and I can then again go to my capabilities and what I know and what I've done with training and things like that, and really implement what exercises I want to do and what I want to target, which has been so beneficial because it's really, we went from not being able to do any kind of squats to being able to sit or to stand underneath the Smith machine and doing squats, with proper spotting and things like that. But having like that load and that weight to be able to do it has been so beneficial.
If you know me, then you know I'm a supplement guy. Yes, theoretically, we should be able to get all of our macro and micronutrients from the foods we eat. But realistically, that's very difficult to do. And just to ensure that I don't fall short on a daily basis, I lean heavily on First Form supplements. I've used and loved their products for years. I especially love their reds and greens because I'm not a big vegetable guy. I love their protein products, Level 1 and Formula 1. I like Level 1 before I go to bed, and I like Formula 1, especially their Formula 1 Clear, right after I work out. I love their omega-3s and their microfactor. If you're interested in learning more, go to firstform.com/Judd, links in my bio, and give them a try.
I think so many people out there, they have one idea of what progression is in their head. They squat with a certain amount of weight, they add weight, to that progression. Going. And you've had to kind of reinvent measurements. So you've created your own metrics, your own exercises, and you've steadily progressed those unique exercises.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
still is about the basics. It's about
It is.
consistency and progression.
Yeah. And it is about like doing the same thing over and over again, which a lot of people don't like to do
No, they
the
don't.
same thing.
Yeah.
And which blows my mind. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on like workout changes consistently?
It plays a role, but how would I put this? You don't need much variation. It's beneficial to some extent, but the whole muscle confusion thing, muscles do not need to be confused.
Yeah, I never understood that.
They need to be stressed to create adaptation, you know,
Yeah,
but like the whole West Side
adaptation
Barbell,
part.
like you put in minor variations to like the squat to where if there's like a weak link or a limitation in the back squat that's preventing you from getting stronger, like holding the barbell in front or holding it in the crook of your elbows or putting a band on it. You know, it's just a very small variation in a normal lift every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you do not need much variation in your training. It's just people get bored, and I got that. But it's like, hey, brushing your teeth is boring.
Yeah.
You still do that every fucking day. Do you let me ask you this. Do you brush your teeth different every single day because you get bored with your No,
Right.
you just do it.
Yeah, you just
because
do
your
it.
teeth need to be cleaned, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's a good way
yeah.
of putting it.
And like when I put my stuff out on Instagram, it's not because I think all this variation is cool. It's like these are options for you if you have limitations. I want to provide you with options.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I think people they want everything to be, it's like eating, you know, you don't need to eat a ton of variety of foods. You need a core set of healthy foods that you eat consistently, but everybody wants an experience every time they eat.
And yeah, I have clients that they don't like eating the same thing all the time. And I'm like, well, it's just going to be a lot harder if you don't want to eat the same thing all the time, because you can just prep it out for the week and then life's easy. But if you don't want to do that, then it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. Everybody wants an experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a lot of times you can do the same thing. And if your mind is right and you're focused on doing it better or doing it heavier, or adding one more rep or doing it when you don't feel good, there's an experience there in doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And like you can track also a lot better, because especially if you're like progressing, like progressive overload and stuff, at least if you're doing, you know, if you're doing one weight one week and then you want to go up the next week, then you can at least track it in that kind of way versus doing different things all the time and then going back to it. It's like, you
don't know.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite movie scenes of all time. You ever watch Conan the Barbarian? Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't.
So Arnold, it's a really bad movie from the 70s. It's like one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, he gets captured, right? He's a kid, and it's back in like the ancient times, like pre-Roman era by far. I think he's in like Assyria or somewhere. And they tie him to this stone mill grinder, him and like 20 other people. And they're marching it around in a circle, right?
Yeah.
And it just does time lapses where it shows like, I guess the other slaves died or got sold. So it's him with fewer and fewer slaves helping him push. So he has to push more of the load. And he's just doing the same thing for years. And he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh,
and it's just like the perfect, like he's just pushing on something, but he just does it heavier and heavier and over again. And he just gets really big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense though.
It's like Milo and his bowl. Is it Milo, the dude that picked up the bowl, the calf every day?
Yeah.
And then as the calf grew, he just got stronger. Like it actually works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you were forced to come up with variations to your exercises because you're not able to do the basics. Like you would love to be able to do just a normal back squat. You can't do that. But instead of just giving up and just not squatting, you were incredibly adaptable, innovative, and you made the adjustments you had to make to still get the stimulus you need.
Yeah.
And some people just aren't adaptable and they're not willing to do that.
Well, yeah, which is so crazy to me, because if there's a will, there's a way, right? I had the will and I needed to find a way, because otherwise, I don't know, how else are you supposed to grow in the ways that you want to grow if you're not willing to change and go essentially with the flow, right? And make the adjustments and make the, what it is that you need to be able to carry out the things that you're trying to do. Yeah.
It's just really hard for me, like hearing you explain how you've been able to squat through your injuries, starting from the ground up, and then guys that they don't like the back squat because it hurts their back. But then then don't. Then what else can you do? And they just don't.
Yeah.
And like they don't work legs because, and then they put one thing, because I have a bad knee, so I can't do legs, or my foot hurts, so I can't do legs.
Yeah.
And it's like your foot isn't only hurt, there's damage there. Your lower legs are damaged. Your back has been damaged. Your hips have been damaged.
Yeah.
You're still doing it.
Yeah, I think there's a level of discomfort that people just don't want to experience. And I think thankfully the background that I've had and all the training I've done and all of the like long nights and my nervous system is very well trained for
all those
for
pieces were in place based on what you told me before your accident. You were going to school, you were working out, you were working 2 jobs. Like the things that you needed to thrive after that accident were already in place.
Yeah, all the habits and all of the discipline was already created prior to, so that I could carry out what was ahead of me, which I don't think a lot of people do. And I think I had just this thought not too long ago, like a few weeks ago, that the way that I live my life now, people who don't handle discomfort well would never be able to go through like my day-to-day things. Like, and to me, like it's my comfort. Like I'm comfortable doing the things that I'm doing. Like, granted, is it hard? Yeah, but it's not so much to where I am crumbling and falling to pieces. But for some people that is, and then it makes you question like, how's your stress management and just your day-to-day life? Like, how do you handle stress to begin with?
I do see people just crumble with like these, and I think we chase comfort, which is hard not to, right? Like I still chase comfort.
Yeah, but I mean, we're all guilty of it. I mean, it's hard.
Don't find things in our life that are uncomfortable and painful and just do those if we don't have to.
Right.
And it's almost a way to practice, because we have to practice everything we want to get good at.
Right.
And before your accident, you had gotten good at practicing being uncomfortable, both physically through your workouts, through your studying, your diligent studying, studying something you honestly didn't like very much, but doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And then also like uncomfortable, like long nights and being sleep deprived. So you had already been practiced at being uncomfortable.
Yeah, like prepping your nervous system.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book. I don't know if you've read it, The Comfort Crisis.
Yeah,
but
it's a great book.
It's a great book. But it makes very valid points as far as like, it talks about how a good percentage of people don't lose weight because they don't like the discomfort of being hungry, or they don't keep the weight. And I mean,
or they just don't like the discomfort of getting bored with their food.
Yeah.
I remember like people would ask me for diet tips and I'll say something, they're like, I don't like that. I'm like, okay, so I'll give them another. Well, I don't like that. And I'm like, I've given you 11 options. I'm out of options. Like at some point in time, you might have to put something in your mouth that you just don't like.
Yeah.
Like right now things are coming out of your mouth I don't like. I'm still listening to that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me. It's like, how bad? So you tell me that you want to lose weight, that you don't like your body, but you tell me that you hate Greek yogurt. And you need to have the normal yogurt, then you don't really want to lose weight that bad.
Yeah. Or like you don't hate you don't hate yourself enough to pick something else to like, I don't know how to like word it the right way, but basically like you don't want it bad enough is how I look at it.
Don't want it bad enough.
And I talk about that all the time on my social. I'm like, we chase certain goals and we say we want certain things, but like how much are you willing to truly sacrifice to actually get those things? And how much are you willing to like how bad do you want it? Like how
bad do you want it?
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you're either willing to go above and beyond what it is that you want, or you're not. And then that just tells me you don't want it. So don't say that you want it then.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. If you don't want it, then you don't want it. But
yeah, exactly. And it's not it's okay to say that you don't want it, but don't say you want it and then don't put forth the effort into, achieving it.
I've always noticed, that people that succeed, they just reach a point where they become unhappy with themselves. Whereas, let's say physically or whatever it is, but let's say physically, even if they're on a deserted island and no one saw them, they still wouldn't want to look the way they look. And the people that don't succeed are fine with looking that way, except for the rare instances where other people are looking at them. Yeah. Like when they have to be on the beach, they feel uncomfortable, or there's an event they want to go through. But like when they're just sitting in the drive-thru at McDonald's, they don't hate the way they feel.
Yeah.
And I was like, until you get to that point where if you're sitting alone in your living room and you just hate the way you feel, that's going to be the motive, because that is the one thing that's with you all the time.
Yeah.
You just don't have that motivation consistently enough where, you only don't like this when other people are looking at you.
Yeah.
So you moving and being an athlete meant so much to you, regardless of if anyone was looking at you or whatever thinking. That's your motivation and it's always with you.
Yeah. Yeah. In the beginning, I mean, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Because I didn't recognize the person that I saw. I look at old pictures, and I would look at my friends. I'm like, this is how I looked. Like, this is me. Because I busted open my head, and they had to glue my head to get like back together. And so all of the glue got all up in my hair, and it got all matted. So I tried saving as much as I could. All the nurses tried saving it as much as they could, but it all got matted. And then when I got home, I cried my eyes out when I had to cut it. And I mean, my hair got like to here, and it didn't look like me. And I was skin and bones. I couldn't fill out any t-shirts. And it was really hard for me to look in the mirror. And
you just kept telling yourself, this isn't permanent.
Yeah. Right. I'm like, I know what I have to do. I just have to do it. And I think when you make that declaration, I feel like God aligns everything for you to be able to do what it is that you want to do, as long as you really are like full on into it.
Yeah.
Because the way that he's shown up for me, I mean, it's like story, like, to be honest, like a movie, to be like, I mean, in ways that
it's amazing to me how easily people lose their faith or point to evidence that there's no God.
Yeah.
And a very hard thing happened to you, something that the vast majority of us will never have to go through. And your faith in God is as strong, if not stronger, than it's ever been.
100%.
And you can see God helping you through the difficult times where other people feel like God abandoned them.
Yeah. I mean, I had one of my friends in rehab. Actually, the first time that I like moved my toe on my left side, 3 of my girlfriends came and saw me, and one of them had asked me, she's like, "Are you angry?" And I remember looking at her, and I'm like, "No, I'm not," because I'm alive when I very well like shouldn't have been. Yeah. And like my brain was intact. I didn't get any massive like brain injury. I got a concussion and like a tiny brain bleed, but like I was still me. I am still me, the girl that, before the accident. And that was, I mean, my spirit and my brain were spared. And obviously, like, there is no way that, just the way that everything lined up that day, there's no way to say that God wasn't there. And the way that things have lined up for me now to be able to go to rehab, I mean, so much so, one of my really good friends, I had met her father one day in passing. Like, we were at a restaurant, and they were there having dinner, and I just said, "Hey, my name's Elena. Super nice to meet you. I gotta go." And post-accident, she told him about me and how much of an impact I've had in her life. Didn't realize I had like as big of an impact as I did. And she came over, after the accident one day, and she's like, I want to tell you something. And I had said, "Okay, well, what's up?" And she had said, "My dad wants to, I told my dad about you, and, he's also a super religious guy, like very God serving, and he wants to donate 10 weeks of therapy to you, because, I mean, therapy is pretty expensive." And I just started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, "Oh my God, 10 weeks? I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, can I just take him to lunch to like, meet him like personally and say thank you?" And so he comes over one day, and we talk. And, he's asking me questions about my faith and, like the prognosis and things like that. And by the end of the conversation, he had said, he's like, "I don't think it's going to take like 10 weeks. I think it's going to take a little bit longer. But I want to write a check for $22,000. 20 of that is going to go to you, and the remaining 2 will go to the church." And he's like, I'm going to be with you till the end of this. And, just thank God, because God's blessed me with like his money, and he put it on my heart to be able to help you. And so I just want you to know that I'm here with you through to the end. And I just was like, I'm getting teary eyed now, because like, I don't know. I didn't even know what to say. I still don't know what to say. And he has helped me this whole entire time and continues helping me.
Things that seem like tragedies, I always see things that come from those, and the beauty that comes from the tragedy. That's a great example of a very good thing that came from this. What are some other very good things that have come from this that are good because of how you've handled the situation?
So I think social media, the amount of people that have reached out to me through social media with the things that I've posted and my perspective on life and how I've basically moved through this whole entire journey. The people that reach out, even if it like one person, they're like, "I really needed to hear that today. Thank you so much." To be able to have that
wouldn't have been there for that person if you had not had to go through what you've had to go through.
Yeah.
How many times has that happened?
So many. and it still happens. And I have so many people reach out to me that have spinal cord injuries, and they're like, I don't know what to do, like, or this is what I'm doing. And, and I tell them, I'm like, this is what I've done. This is what I suggest doing. I'm not saying it's, everybody's different, but this is how you can, start. And thing again, like, God creates purpose in the pain. And so when you can find the purpose, or when you can kind of start aligning with the purpose, then again, I feel like he just lines everything up.
To do that though, you first have to know that there is a purpose and try to find the purpose.
Yeah.
And you did
this
that.
Is true.
And your eyes were open to it. And you were able to see it.
Yeah. Having a lens to be able to see it, being receptive and seeing what he's trying to show you. I think that's also like super important, because a lot of people, it would be easy to be jaded, after something super tragic happening. And I mean, I very well could, but at the same time, why spend that energy being sad and upset? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been sad and upset, you know what I mean? Yeah. But to like linger in that and let that run your life, versus everything could be so much better if you just chose to like take the higher road of thought.
I mean, do you know the people that you hit at all? Do you know why they were stopped? Do you ever?
No.
So a lot of people would be angry, blame them, wonder why they were stopped. And you never put an ounce of thought into them or blaming them for your injury. Or
I think in the beginning, I think that's where my anger came from. It wasn't so much like angry at God. It was more so like, why were they stopped in the fast lane? Why, I did have that, and I did have to work through a lot of that anger. I mean, like crying and screaming in my garage, because it was just, like how can people be so negligent and just think that like something that's not dangerous, right? And because I'm not an angry person at all. And so when I started having all of these feelings of anger come up, I would be on the phone with my mentors. I'm like, this is not me. I don't know how to work through this. I need to figure out how to move past it. But then eventually it was, as I started seeing more so, people reaching out to me, people like being really receptive to my recovery, my things going super viral online, and finding the purpose behind the things that I'm going through, and my recovery is progressing and being, going in a way that a lot of people are very like impressed by. It's like, okay, well, maybe this is what was supposed to happen. Yeah. Maybe this is where I was supposed to go, because I did always want to be a coach. When I was younger, I did always want to go do speaking events. Like I was very much, I loved doing speeches in school. I loved doing things that were very community related, to where maybe this was how it was supposed to happen.
You mentioned to me that you didn't know what it was that people would want from you before this, like what you had to offer others, really, right. Which I'm sure you had a lot to offer, but you couldn't see that.
Right.
And unfortunately, fortunately, but in a painful way, God gave you something now where you might have had to offer it before this happened, but people couldn't see it because you were a healthy person. Totally. Right. And now you had it to offer before, you still have it, but now people can see it because they see what you have to offer.
Thanks.
And so God gave you the world, the gift of letting us see what you have to offer them.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to think that that's the case, because again, we try to find. I mean, at least I'm somebody that tries to find purpose through the pain that we go through, and I think a lot of people miss out by not trying to do that, and they get again jaded and just upset that like the world's not out to get you. It's not. There's
also not for you either.
Yeah.
It's not for or against you. The world is just what the world is.
Exactly. It's just, it is what it is. And like there are good things that happen and there are bad things that happen. And
everybody's like, why me? And it's like, well, why not you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can also flip that and say like people who want to strive for excellence and things like that. They say, well, like, the whole imposter syndrome, like, well, why me? Well, like, why not you?
Why not? Exactly. That's a great.
Why not you? Like, who's to say that you can't go and do the things that you want to do? I mean, I said that too. In the beginning of, if I was going to ever walk again, I had to keep reminding myself, well, like, why not me? Yeah. Why not me being the one to like to do this and like to set out and do this? I mean, when God gives you all of these things to like line you up so perfect in a way to where the outcome, where you line yourself up so good that the outcome is at the best possible chance of receiving. That's what you want to do. That's what everybody I feel like should do, is that you line yourself up for the best possible outcome to happen. And if it ends up happening, great. If it doesn't end up happening, at least you gave it your all. Yeah. At least you did everything you can.
And there's purpose in that too, giving it your all. You know what I mean?
Like I saw something about online. It was that people who don't burn for something, like the how balance kind of breeds mediocrity, and the people that don't burn for something, then the question is whether or not they deserve to actually have the success.
I mean, I think passion, the word is suffering. I mean, passion is suffering.
Yeah.
And the things that we want, we're going to have to suffer for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
To want something so bad, it means you burn for it and you long it for it to happen.
Definitely. Do you think that the human experience is meant to be in suffering?
It's meant to be painful, and it's meant to teach us how to endure pain without suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or to see purpose in the things that happen to us.
Yeah.
And to find the beauty and meaning in those things. And I think that's what life is all about.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know
definitely.
I mean? And I feel people that and I understand how easy it is because we all do it from time to time, the wallow in their suffering. I'm like, well, you're just missing the point of life. It's what are you going to do with this pain? And there's two things. We all have a decision to make. Every great person in the world that's done great things, if you follow their story back long enough, it all started from pain and hardship. It really did.
It did.
And they just decided to do this with the pain instead of this. And it's just about decisions, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the fork in the road, right? You can either go into the jaded side, or you can choose the higher road of thought.
I've had a very blessed life, you know, compared to most people. So I can't speak from the experience that people like you have had, but I've seen people that succeed, and it's the people that have learned to view pain and hardship in a certain way. And that's the common theme. It's just they do things with the hard things that happen to them differently. That's it.
Yeah. And it is. I mean, perspective. So at the 1 year mark, I didn't go to like therapy or anything like psychology and stuff. I didn't. They tried doing that like in rehab and in the hospital, and the question that they would ask would just it's like, well, how are you feeling? And it's like, how do you think I'm feeling?
I hate that question.
You know, so then, so I totally didn't even want to go into therapy and stuff. And I ended up hiring a coach at the 1 year mark. And I still work with her. She keeps my head on tack. And
I always tell people, I'm like, if you want to make people feel better, you got to give them hope, right?
Yeah.
If you want to give somebody hope, you give them a plan, or you help come up with a plan.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how somebody's feeling, don't ask them how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, what's your plan?
Yeah.
You don't have one. Let's come up with one. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
And you just said it, like, she keeps you on track. She helps you see the way forward. Right?
Yeah. And just a continuous reminder of like, you're doing all that you need to be doing to get to where it is that you want to go, which we need that reminder, right? Because the world definitely tries to make us feel like we're not doing enough, or basically that we're not doing enough. Right. And I still feel like I'm not doing enough sometimes, because it's just,
same.
Yeah. And so it's hard to not get like consumed and overwhelmed thinking like, oh, I need to be doing something constantly. But when you have somebody in your corner and people to remind you like you're doing all that you can, it serves like very well. I remember having also a friend, one of my chiropractic best friends. I remember like going to her office and stuff, and she could just tell that I was like so distraught, and because I was scared. There was a lot of fear that was like inside of me, even though that I was doing so much and like going to, I'm in rehab 4 days a week. I'm there 12, 15 hours. Like I'm doing a lot, but there was still like this doubt of, is this going to be worth it? Right? Am I doing all of this? Is this going to have like the outcome that I want? And then the reminder of like, don't be scared, because you're doing your part. And if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And if it's not, then not at that point in time, but if it wasn't,
you never have to wonder, because I did everything I could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think also people don't give themselves that chance. Like, I don't think I would have been okay not trying.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of regret that people have because they don't, like, they're just scared of not either succeeding, or they're scared of the failure part of it, or they're just scared to like do the work, or they're scared of the discomfort, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you don't try, you're definitely not going to succeed.
Yeah. And if you don't fail, because I mean, everybody you talk to that succeeded, they'll talk to you about all their failures.
Yeah.
And every failure, they learn something from it, you know?
Yeah. And it's not really a failure.
Something.
It's a lesson.
Yeah.
You know, again, all these perspective shifts and mindset shifts that a lot of people miss out on because they just either don't want to see it for what it could be, and they just see it for what they think it is, versus challenging their thought process and repatterning how like their brain looks at things. I think that's also something that people don't spend a lot of time doing, is like retraining thought patterns, because thoughts are patterns. Yes. And just the same way, like our human body, we move in certain patterns, and your thoughts, those are, you know, they're either good patterns or bad patterns. And when you can identify the bad ones, then you can start, you know, changing like the way that you're thinking about those things.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, like, if you want to change, it's all about your future, right? Where do you want to see yourself in the future? If you want to change your future, you have to change your environment.
Yeah.
If you want to change your environment, you have to change your actions. But if you want to change your actions, you have to change your thoughts, because your thoughts lead to your actions.
Right.
Your actions change your environment predicts your future.
Yeah.
It's like a chain reaction, and nobody understands how powerful, like, the things that they are thinking are what's dictating your actions. You know?
Right. Yeah. It's aligning everything so for the outcome that you want. And again, people, they have like these beliefs and things, but then their actions don't back up their beliefs. And then they wonder why they're in the same boat as they have always been. It's because you're believing something.
The definition of insanity is like do the same thing over again, expect a different result.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me. Yeah.
I just, you know, I always picture this. It's hard for me to describe it to people, but it makes me sad. And I see it in business, and I see it in physical fitness. They push on something hard and it's not moving, or it's not moving very fast.
Yeah.
And in the world of physics, it's inertia. You know, you're overcoming inertia. And right at the point where they'd reach that tipping point where the thing would start to roll, and the harder they push, the faster it would move, they stop.
Yeah.
Because they push so hard for so long, and it doesn't feel like it's moving, or it's not moving very fast. And then they just decide it's not worth it. I'm like, man, you were so close, you know?
Yeah.
It's like those memes where somebody's digging and they don't see how close they are to the sunlight. It's like you were in the process of overcoming that inertia. And once you get that momentum, which is the opposite of inertia,
effect, then
you just roll with it. And I feel like now you're reaching a point where you have some momentum and you're starting to run with it.
Yeah, 100%. And there's been many times like getting in like over that, like through the inertia, right? Even now, like trying to walk without having assistance and things like that. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was getting teary-eyed because I'm like, oh my God, like, is it ever going to get easier? Right? Like, I still have those thoughts and those feelings. Like, yeah, is it where I was? No, obviously, but it's still, when you have a certain outlook of like what you really are wanting, and it still seems so far away, it's hard to not get stuck in the rut of thinking, okay, well, am I going to move?
That's where some of
this?
That balance, because it's important that we keep our eyes on where we want to go, but sometimes it's also important just to look back and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's hard sometimes too, though, because we have to actually like make time to like sit and reflect and think like, whoa, like this is where I was. And it also helps like people online that just remind me, or like my friends that remind me, or my trainers. They're, every once in a while they're like, remember when you couldn't do this? And I'd be like, oh my God.
We talked about a very important thing that I think has implications beyond this too, as a lesson learned, is that there are technologies that are potentially just around the corner that could revolutionize, neural deficits and spinal injuries. Mm-hmm. But in order to take advantage of those, if the person it's been a long time since their injury and they haven't kept their limbs moving and they haven't done the rehab, then even if their spinal cord could heal, the other parts of their body would be so deteriorated that it doesn't matter at that point.
Right.
And you have kept that. Your trainer brought that up too. You have done the work now to where if a technology comes along that can speed up the process of your healing, you have set yourself up for success in the future. And I just think there's a huge lesson there. Like we have to put ourselves in a position to where when the opportunity presents itself, we can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work. And you put in the work.
Thanks. Yeah, it's what's that saying? Opportunity meets preparation,
Yeah,
or whatever the saying is.
exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Again, aligning yourself to the best possible outcome, and to build a foundation. That's what my goal was. Like, I wanted to get what I had. I wanted to get as close as I could to where I was before the accident back, because I had a foundation that I built. I had 12 years of training underneath. I mean, I started training when I was like 13 years old,
Yeah.
and being in the weight room and stuff. And, that did get my bones really, really strong to where I did only break 18, where I didn't break anything in my legs. I didn't break anything in my hips. I mean, meaning like those things were like really strong and tight. Whereas had I been, not an athlete, I probably wouldn't have made it that day.
Yeah,
And
your pelvis probably would have been just obliterated.
yeah.
Right?
And I mean, there are people that have had like not as harsh of accidents, and they're much worse off than than the accident that I had. And it's crazy to think that, that background and, building the foundation and how it all plays a role in all of it too.
A lot of times we don't see how vital the things we've been doing are until something happens, and then all
Yeah.
that work, then
Yeah.
it makes sense in your mind.
Yeah, my mom would always give me a hard time. She's like, "You go to the gym too much. You're getting too big." And after the accident, and she found out like my body saved me, she was like, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things." And now she doesn't say anything anymore. She lets me.
That's
me
a
do
lesson for
whatever.
parents too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents, they get on their kids when they get into bodybuilding. They think it's a superficial thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you don't understand. Like
Yeah.
it's teaching them dedication. It's teaching them delayed gratification.
Yeah.
It's not bodybuilding for kids. Believe it or not, is not a popular thing. They're isolated. They're away from the crowd.
Yeah.
There's a difference between kids that lift weights to look good and kids that get into bodybuilding and they diet and they prep for the shows. And they go for periods of time where they're not doing drugs and they're not drinking. They have something that's distracting them from the norm,
Right.
and they're willing to do something they love, even if it's not popular.
Yeah.
So get off your kid for bodybuilding a little bit,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because they think drugs and steroids, it's like, no, that might become a risk later. But right now your kid likes to train and he likes to eat and he likes to plan.
Right.
Those are all good things.
Yeah. Yeah, I was doing all of that in high school. I was meal prepping. I would step out of lab class and
they're
eating
learning
the
that if you
cold.
really want to get great at stuff, you got to be willing to give some stuff up too.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to not party, to not eat junk food.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So what does the future hold for you? Where do you see yourself going? What's the prognosis that they've told you is possible? And then what are some of your plans business wise moving forward?
So prognosis, I haven't even gone back to neuro since the 1 year mark, because at that point in time I was walking in leg braces, so RGOs, reciprocal gait orthotics, which very similar to what Forrest Gump had, like the kid running, but instead it was all the way up to my hips. At that point in time, at the 1 year mark, that was when I was starting to use those. And
now, whenever we did the push pull, you're able to like hip flexor pressure, glute pressure on the other leg, like you got all of that back.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, and for a long time it wasn't, but it was just, again, continuing to do the same thing over and over and over again. But I haven't gone back to neuro since the 1 year mark, and like I said, at that time he had said, I showed him a video of me walking in the braces, and he's like, it's going to take like several years to get to where it is you want to go. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. I'm like, well, we'll see about that. So I haven't gone back, and really with like the neuro team and stuff, it's new. Like I don't know if they've had as many recovery stories in the way that like my recovery has gone, and so for them it's all new too. And so they're like, we're just riding this with you.
Awesome.
I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. And I've been with them for 3 years. The 3 year mark is coming up May 4th, like where I started with them. And so I'm trying to get to where I don't need to have arm crutches. That's my goal as far as exactly like what I want to do. And I don't know. I don't know when that will be. I don't know if that will be it, but I'm making myself open to the possibility of that happening, and I'm working towards that happening. And so with that all being said, this whole entire journey has redirected me into, becoming like an online coach, an online fitness coach. And eventually I would like to, start going and doing and speaking and things that I feel like I've already done a couple speaking events in small groups and whatnot, and it seems like that seems more fulfilling to me than going back into pharmacy. And one of my coaches, she had said, because was really missing bartending and stuff, and in the beginning, she was like, "You're gonna go through all of this," and she's like, "What, to go back to doing what you were doing?" And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah." I'm like, okay. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, like saying bye to my old life, because I wasn't somebody, it would be different maybe if I really hated my life. And, now I had this opportunity. Oh, like I have this second chance. I mean, yeah, I have a second chance, but now it's a whole redirected second chance where it's like, God's like, I really didn't want you going and doing what you were going to go and do. And now this is what I want you to go and do. And so you're either going to step into it fully, or, you're not going to be happy the rest of the way. And so,
I feel like you found a purpose, right?
Yeah. And I was questioning a lot of that before the accident. I'd be like out on my balcony and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And even one of my coaches, she had said, she's like, I think before the accident, you were moving through life and stuff, but I don't think you were having purpose. Like you were having a hard time finding purpose. And I'm like, whoa, I was having a really hard time because, I don't know. We want to feel like we want to feel like that we have something to offer purposefully, right? Like that's just, I think, a human nature to think that way. And
I always say purpose is where passion meets service, right?
Yeah.
And I think like you found yours. I'm getting the sense that you found your purpose.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like it's everything. Like I like going to rehab. I like doing the work that it takes. Is it frustrating sometimes? Yeah. Have I cried many, many times? But it's, but that's like part of it. And that's how I'm like the grit and like continuing to persevere, because I mean, there are basketball games where I would be crying because I'm like, we gotta win. You know what I mean? And so a part of me feels like I am not stuck in like the athlete of high school, but I am very much in that grind because when I was in high school, I was dual enrolled. I got out early. I had a mentor in high school that would pick me up and we'd go to the gym and I'd shoot 2,500 shots like in the morning time.
That was in you before this happened.
Yeah. And so now before I start my training sessions, I go an hour early. I hop on the bike. I do all of these things because like, that's what I'm used to doing. I know what the work that I have to put in to be able to get
more than people can possibly fathom to do, to be great, to overcome what you've had to overcome. I don't think people can fathom it. You know what I mean? And they have to start practicing it now. In order to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, your one video that you talked about where it's like people say it's never too late, but like it is. It can be. And because then not that you start from scratch like we talked about earlier, but you start from a base that you could have had, 10, 15 years to build if you just taken 10% of your day and done something to help facilitate, muscle engagement and, all the things that are super important as we get older, because it does wither away, unfortunately. And sometimes even now I'm like, wow, like it would be so
like it took
so hard
car wreck that would kill most people in order to change your life, to make it your life challenging. I've seen people that they simply slip and fall and they break their hip, like in the kitchen, and their entire life has just completely changed.
Yeah.
But if they had just done simple things before that, they might not have fallen to begin with. So they did, it would be a bruise and not a compound hip fracture.
Yeah.
And their life will never be the same. And then they're playing with their grandkids. It's just completely done.
Yeah. And to think like, if I ever become a parent one day, like I don't want to run around with my kids.
Yeah.
And I want to be in the
think you will.
Yeah. I want to be in the ocean, like teaching them how to surf and stuff and being able to do all those things. And, it would be really shitty to not think that I gave myself the chance to be able to like have that happen. And I would live in a lot of regret, and I don't think I would be happy just like being okay with like what happened. And, I think a lot of people like, I don't know if they're okay, but it's like they're okay with that feeling of not pursuing. I don't know how to explain that really the right way, but to live in regret seems
I feel like life to some extent is about constant pursuit. Yeah. And that's okay. You need to be chasing something our whole life, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And okay that, certain things we might never catch.
Yeah.
But we need to chase until we die, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because like you have one life.
Kipling said one of my favorite lines: "Fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run." Mm-hmm. And that line always stuck out to me.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my minute? You know what I mean? Because it's not forgiving.
Yeah.
It's fleeting.
Always.
Have I filled it with 60 seconds worth of distance run? And I feel like you are.
Oh, thanks.
You know?
Yeah, I've always loved life. I've always wanted to like take advantage of. I've always wanted to experience everything, but again, be careful what you wish for, right? Because,
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You know, like, and when you're moving through all that I've gone through and the level, like the spectrum of human emotions that I have felt, like it made me realize a lot of people will never. A vast majority will never feel the feelings that I have felt.
Yeah.
Maybe on a different level,
Yeah.
but as far as like a good portion of it, like it's a very like wide spectrum, which is also super crazy.
I know that I'm of much more service to other people because of the things I've gone through, and I know that you are now too. You're a better servant to other people because of the things that you've gone through and overcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to think that. That I can, you know, serve in some kind of way. And,
how can people find you?
On social media. So my Instagram handle is flowstate_recovery, but no W in flow state. So FLO state_recovery. And I'm pretty active on there. And that's really the only social that I use. And then I have a website there's a Linktree bio that I have, or in my bio, that people can go on and
got some pretty cool kit too that I'll be rocking here shortly.
Yes, I have it for you. So, but yeah, with Flow State, that's it's my little pride and joy right now. I've been trying to, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like God aligns certain things for you. He put Flow State on my mind already back in pharmacy school in 2020, and back then it was more so to. It was really supposed to be a clinic name, potentially either a ketamine clinic or a clinic to help people with substance use disorders have somebody to follow up to, and also provide coaching in kind of like a wellness clinic. And the idea was flow state recovery. I feel like people, now I feel like it's the majority, not just people with addiction, but I feel like a lot of people fall out of flow state, meaning like they fall out of like being aligned and like on the path of what they want to do.
Absolutely.
And should do. I
feel like God saw that there was more to your vision than you thought, maybe.
Yeah. And it then, so the idea was to recover back into flow state as the clinic name for, you know, for people in general. And the accident happened, and flow state's now become the FLO is figuring life out, because
I like it.
Thank you. Because the last 3 years I've just been like trying to figure life out in this new world that I've, you know, was terrified of, and coming back into a flow state where I'm happy again and moving and, you know, lifting and doing all the things and enjoying like the human experience to its max effort.
You definitely seem like a very happy, fulfilled person.
Thank you.
That every day is a blessing for you.
It is. And it really is. I mean, we only spend so much time here on earth, and to think that like it could have been ripped away from me, and I'm all about having so much fun, and my friends have told me, they're like, you help me like stay present and help me be in the moment and not have to worry about everything, because like all we have is right now. Like all we have like we don't know what's going to happen later. We don't know, you know, the past is the past, and right now is really important. And like being able to be here with you and like talk with you, like again, I don't know, who knows if I would have had that opportunity had, you know, the tragic thing not happened to me. And so trying to find the light. It's not really finding the light. I think the light's always there. It's perspective is the light. And so you either choose perspective, the higher road of thought as the perspective you want to adopt, or you choose the jaded route, and, you know, you kind of live a more dark time. So, yeah, thank you.
I've learned a lot from you. I've definitely inspired me, and I know that a lot of people listen to this will definitely be inspired, and it'll help them maybe, hopefully, put things in perspective in their life.
Thank you.
You have lessons you can teach all of us. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I learn so much from you all the time with everything that you post. And again, I've used a lot of the things that you've posted about in my recovery, because there is a lot of, you know, there's just a lot of moving parts that a lot of people don't express the way that you express it. And so how your expression into the world is very unique. And I admire that a lot. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's great talking to you.